Are you looking for ideas for using up your 12 by 12 patterned paper without making scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have 12 by 12 paper busting template for A2 cards in number 28. That means you'll take one piece of 12 by 12 pattern paper and make some A2 cards, and there'll be no pattern paper scraps left over, so you'll use an entire sheet of 12 by 12 paper. Great for busting through your stash. Because this is number 28, that means there are 27 other ones already available for free to download at JessCrafts.com. This one is the first link in the video description. You enter your email address, it automatically gets sent to you. If you prefer not to get 27 individual emails, you can purchase a pack of 30 of these on my Etsy shop, and there's always a link and a coupon code. But today I'm super excited because this one, I came up with an idea that not only works for directional pattern paper, which is important because there are a lot of directional pattern papers out there. Today, my paper isn't super directional, but still, it's good to have that option. And it only makes 4 cards. So we're actually gonna get to use a lot of our 12 by 12 paper really quickly because, you know, I've seen those ideas where like, oh, use a whole piece of 12 by 12 paper, but you're making like 10 or 12 cards. And I'm like, I'm never gonna get through my stash that way. So this idea, I think, is one of those ones when you're like, you know what, today is a day that I just feel like using a bunch of pattern paper. This is the one you wanna pull out. Also, the cuts are super, super simple. So I have my 12 by 12 paper. I cut off the branding strip. This is Echo Park Birthday Girl. We're actually not gonna make birthday cards with it, but you totally can. And the cards we're gonna make today, you could use as birthday cards. Okay, we're gonna use the template. It tells us to cut at 3 inches wide, and then we're gonna make a bunch of cuts from there. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut my 12 by 12 paper into 3 by 12 inch strips. And I'm gonna say some measurements out loud and that kind of thing, but if you lose track, don't worry, because that's why they're all written there on the template and why it's a PDF download for you. Then we're going to cut a 3 by 2 inch piece. So I brought it from 12 to 10. Then it says we need a piece that's 5.5. And then finally, this other piece will, once we measure 5.5, it'll be 4.5 and it's left over. So I'm gonna measure to 5.5, and then that piece that's left over should be our 4.5. Now, while this is great for directional pattern paper, you could do this with single-sided, but as you can see, the way that I'm gonna layer it up here, it's gonna be a lot of the same pattern. We're gonna put some mats around it to help, but I do think this benefits from double-sided paper just to kind of break up the look. Okay, so we'll do that again for each of these strips. Cut 2 inches off, cut 5.5, leave the 4.5, and keep going till you've cut all 4 of them. Then we're gonna take some coordinating cardstock. You can always start with your scraps. I keep my scraps in the same, I think they're called job ticket holders. I gotta remember to link these more often. But I got them on Amazon, and it helps me to keep all of my cardstock in check, and I don't have to have a separate system for keeping scraps. I just put it with my cardstock, and then I put a little label with the name of them. I have a whole video about cardstock organization, if that's helpful. And okay, so then we find the measurements for the mat here on the card sketch. So it'll say you have a 3 by 5.5 inch piece with a 3 1/4 by 5.5 inch mat, because on this one there is no top and bottom. Okay, so come to that 3 1/4. You could do that again. Sometimes I'm not the most efficient at figuring out how to cut the cardstock. This one is maybe not the most efficient with that, but because I hold on to my scraps pretty well, it's not usually too much of a problem. I always share little tips for what to do with your scraps. Now, this though, when you do the 3 1/4 by 11 inch, so I cut 3 1/4 inch off a full cardstock piece, that makes the 2 5.5 inch pieces that you need though. So I can do that pretty easily, and that's efficient on cardstock. So a little tip there. You don't want to start chopping one of these smaller, okay? Then this piece that's left is only 2 inches, and I need a little bit bigger for my next cardstock mat. So we can come to a new sheet or use up some of those other old scraps that we have. And then make a 3 1/4 inch. Usually my mats are a 1/4 inch bigger. The only reason this one isn't is because it goes the full length of the card. So I need a 4 3/4 to go with that 4 1/2. And if I make 2 of those, I'm left with this 1 1/2 inch piece. Also don't need it today. So, you know, again, I don't always promise super efficient cardstock usage. I'm wondering if I can get more out of this particular piece of cardstock if I change up how I'm measuring it. So you don't have to follow my cardstock cutting directions because they're not necessarily well thought out, but I am just cutting all the mats that I need. And so I have my next 4 layering pieces, and then I need to cut my 3 1/4 by 2 1/4 inch pieces, and we're really going to focus on trying to use up some of these scraps for that. Okay, so speaking of organization, I was talking about my cardstock organization. The Paper Crafters Get Organized Summit is this weekend. Sorry, I totally forgot what I was talking about. And it's a free event. So if you're ever been interested in like, okay, is there, you know, what do the experts do? You see a lot of craft room tours here on YouTube. And this is only if you're watching it like, you know, within a couple of days of me posting it. But, you know, I've watched my fair share of craft room tours. And they're super fun to watch. But they're not always the most helpful in terms of like, okay, but like, why did you put all that way? Or sometimes people are showing you their craft rooms and they're great and it works for them, but like, because you don't really know the why, you're like, would this work for me? Or they don't have the same kind of space as you or something like that. So this is a little bit more structured than the craft room tours you might see on YouTube. And like I said, I'll leave a link. You can get, it's a free event. You can upgrade so that you can watch the presentations more and that kind of thing. But I think it's absolutely worth that free ticket so that you just, you know, you can watch them over the weekend, get some ideas, and see if that is helpful for you. So I'm going to make 1 card today. Well, I'm going to demonstrate the 1 card. I'll show you them all, but there is 4 of them. But you don't need to watch me glue every single card together. Oh, you did watch me make a lot of cardstock cuts there. I gotta be, you know, sometimes I think I should plan ahead more for my videos, but I also know that that would also mean I would bring you less videos sometimes because I need to sometimes record in a limited amount of time. Okay, so we take the pattern paper pieces and we match them up with the cardstock that we cut out for each of them. I generally just eyeball it for the centering, but if you line it up against a grid mat, that can help a lot too. But my cards are certainly not all perfectly lined up every time. Okay. And then we're going to assemble it according to the card sketch. I keep a whole bunch of cards pre-cut and organized in a little like cube organizer on my desk. I have actually recently built a new cube organizer for myself because this one was getting a little wobbly. Sometimes those like pre-finished furniture, they only last so many moves and that kind of thing before they start getting a little shaky. And it's where my camera sits too. So, okay, then we'll place that there in the center. The scrapbook.com mat that I am working on does have like the A2 card, so that can help you to make sure you're centered on the card. Then this bigger panel kind of leans a little bit off the center panel to the left, and then this other panel, the smaller panel, leans a little bit off the center one to the right. Now, something you can do, especially if you have like little strips of cardstock like this, is if you were to really press this down, it creates a little like bumpiness here, and also it does have a tendency to like lift up a little bit. So sometimes I'll sneak a little bit of extra cardstock underneath when I've gotten a couple layers up, and that just kind of helps everything look a little bit more smooth across there, and it's a great use for some of those scraps. Today I want to do some quick and easy embellishments. So I have my fantasy treat tags, and it comes with 4 different designs. These are available in my Etsy shop. You can color print them and then use them on top of your cards, on top of treats is what I tend to do with them. I bought a seasonal ones. So each of the designs comes in color. Like this is the castle design. It's in color. It's in black and white, so if you want to color it yourself and make it match exactly your card. And it's blank, so if you wanted to stamp your own image, like this one actually just says "You are strong," which I thought worked well with the castle. But as you could see, you could stamp a bunch of other kind of images with it. And so our expressions are: may all your dreams come true, you sparkle, you are magical, and you are strong. So very general sentiments, but they're great for like little encouraging treats or to use as card toppers. And then the sentiment is right there included, which I love. So I'm gonna get some circle dies and I'm gonna cut some of these. When you get the treat labels, tags, card toppers, there's so many different names for this kind of thing, from my Etsy shop, you'll get a PDF where they're all like this larger size. They're about, I'd say about, they're 2.5 inches. So like 2.5 by 2.5, which is a little large, but it's great for treats. It does work on cards as well. So you'll get that as a PDF, and then you could just like print 6 of them really fast. But you'll also get the JPEGs so that you can size them to whatever size works well for your card. So I resized these to 2 inches instead of the 2.5 inches. And then I can take my layering circle dies. I really like these ones from Hero Arts because there are so many different sizes. It's really like a lot of dies in one little set. They're the infinity ones, and they come in all different shapes. But circles are so basic to me. It's a little silly to some people, but I actually have 3 sets because I so often have something like this where I'm like cutting multiple from the same sheet, and it saves me a lot of time. So when I got those at like, I think I found like a 40% off sale at Joann's. It was great. I assembled all the other pieces for the 4 cards, and my cat is snoring behind me, so I don't think you can hear it. But if there's a funny noise, that's what that is. Anyway, so I also cut these out into circles. I decided to use the "You Sparkle" and "You Are Magical" sentiments today. I think they're like great general sentiments. I know a lot of places that accept card donations say they just need like, you know, general encouraging cards for kids, but I think you could absolutely give these like on a birthday too. You could just write a happy birthday message inside. But I did, when I made this pack, it was really important to me to include one that maybe was like a little more, like a little less princessy is what I want to say. So I made sure to include the castle, but today, since my paper is kind of princessy, I would go ahead and use the colors that coordinated a little bit more. So I will leave you a link to these little treat label card topper things as well, in case you want to check them out and get some designs to make yourself some really fast cards, because especially when you combine it with this paper busting template, I mean, these come together so quickly. The cuts are so easy. There's nothing really fussy about all that. If you like this video, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with the share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.